March 2020, I think, is when we had the first couple of cases in Seychelles. And overnight, the country more or less went into lockdown. Tourists either stopped coming or the numbers dropped massively. I underestimated how big a role tourism played in every aspect of our economy. So here I am doing comms for a conservation NGO, thinking, oh yeah, my job will be fine. And then suddenly the conservation NGO basically had to put me on garden leave because they didn't have the funds, which they would have got from tourism CSR money, to pay me.
Oh, wow,
right?
Yeah.
So I was like, crap, like this, okay, I did not really think too much about this. March 2020, a lot of, there were a couple of contracts that I had that basically went overnight. The big part of my work is workforce training. So going into workplaces, doing soft skills development. Suddenly we're being told we can't kind of meet as people and we have to stay at home. So all of that was postponed. I was really anxious and really worried for my business. I think I was, it just felt unfair, as kind of lame as that sounds. It felt unfair because I'd finally reached a point where I built up the business and I built up my reputation and at the time my mum was working with me as well as a workforce trainer and we were doing really well. So to lose all of that overnight, I mean, she lost like several of her counseling clients as well overnight, her coaching clients. It was, it just felt like a lot. That on top of everything else, and as well as worrying about this deadly disease that was killing everybody according to, CNN and BBC and Sky News. It was a lot. But I think for me, eventually, I saw it as an opportunity to press reset, to consider what was important in my life, but also just to think out of the box, because one of the things here, I think, you can easily fall into your comfort zone.
Oh, absolutely.
So I found my comfort zone professionally, churning out workforce trainings, doing PR and comms for this conservation NGO, and that was great, and that was enough. But when you get, when you're kind of on a flat line, as many businesses were with COVID, it forced me to innovate. It forced me to think out of the box, and that's what I did. So I approached. I started a series on my company's Facebook page called Stories from the Frontline.
I remember that.
And I just wanted to tell the stories of people who were frontline workers. And at the same time, as well as kind of doing this goodwill gesture, I was also approaching big companies and saying like, look, your staff are frontline workers, let me tell their stories. And this was me kind of showcasing my PR and comms abilities as well, my ability to write decent English. And it took off. It did really well, to the point where one of the national newspapers were like, we really like this. Can we run it in our newspaper alongside your social media?
Awesome.
I was like, great. So suddenly I'm doing this thing for free, yes, but I'm getting free exposure in the newspaper, in a national newspaper for 6 weeks, every day for 6 weeks. So I'm just sitting there like churning out these stories for free. But what I didn't realize at the time was that, do you know what? When things do pick up, like suddenly my company's profile is a little bit bigger. I picked up 1 or 2 clients from that process as well, some of whom are still clients today, like 2 years on. So having that period where I was forced to just stop and just innovate, it's eventually brought me to a good place. So then by the time the next lockdown or restrictive movement, whatever we were calling it, came, I was like, okay, do you know what? I've got this. I know what I need to do. I'm not anxious. I'm not worried, because I've been through this before. I think this is the biggest thing. What was it they say? Those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it, or something like that.
Even those who study history end up repeating it most
precisely.
of the time.
Maybe I've butchered that phrase, but anyway.
I'm not familiar with it, but I know what you mean.
So I was like, you know what, if I haven't learned from what happened in April 2020 in January 2021, then I've missed the trick here. So
absolutely.
I just felt better equipped. So in the end, it just forced me to diversify. Suddenly, I can't do workforce trainings in person. Let me offer it as a virtual option. Maybe I was a bit dismissive of the PR and comms work initially. Fine, let me find a bit more PR and comms work because I can do that remotely. I can't line up contracts right now. Okay, well, let me have conversations with companies now, and I can line up these contracts for when the situation does calm down. So, yeah, I think for me, I had to shift from that kind of glass half empty to glass half full mindset.